invitation, and I want to also especially thank Mr. Vacula for the invitation to participate in this educational experience that I hope will lead to some critical thinking towards the truth in regards to tonight's topic. I will attempt tonight to step into the shoes of the atheist position and try to examine the world through their eyes, examining the ideas and concepts that they use within the framework of their understanding of whether or not the Christian God exists. I will simultaneously contrast their views with the ideals and concepts of believers in order to demonstrate the following. Number one, that one of the two systems of thought is metaphysically, epistemically, and axiomatically more justifiable than its counterpart. Secondly, that if the Christian God does exist, one of those systems will undeniably lead you to him, while the other one will not. Thirdly, that the simple choice to ignore the facts concerning the existence of the Christian God does not in any way disprove his existence, nor does it excuse one from the consequences of doing so. So first I would like to suppose that we need a definition of the Christian God so that we know what we're referencing tonight. And I would like to submit the following definition for your consideration. The Christian God is a transcendent, infinite, intelligent, all-powerful being from which all things live, move, and exist. Now that we have our definition, I'd like to begin with the metaphysical argument for the existence of the Christian God. The metaphysical argument attempts to clarify the fundamental notions by which people understand the world, its existence, objects, properties, space, time, cause and effect. The atheist position takes for granted his own conscious existence, apart from a first cause, while theists do not. It is a matter of fact, or a first truth of reason, that what is infinite requires a cause. Or that is, what is finite requires a cause, and that a cause must be equal to or greater than its effect. So, based on the laws of cause and effect, the following two premises can be made and this conclusion. First premise being all effects must have a cause. Second premise, an effect is anything that has a beginning. Therefore, we can make this conclusion. Anything that has a beginning must have a cause. Consider also that the law of cause and effect is a self-evident truth, which means it requires no proof or explanation because its justification is independent of our personal experience in order for it to be true. It is true nonetheless. This is a truth we all assume or presuppose. So the question, if everything had a cause in order to exist, then who caused God to exist, would therefore, according to the law of cause and effect, be an illogical and fallacious question, because it is not that everything has a cause, but only what is an effect. Anything that has a beginning. God, as an infinite, self-existent being, requires, therefore, no cause. There was no beginning to his existence, his consciousness, his intelligence, his complexities, and given the presupposition that the Bible is true concerning him, it also is in harmony with God being the first cause and a self-existent, transcendent being. In Exodus 3:14, God said to Moses, when he had questioned, "Who shall I tell them has sent me to your people?" God then replies to him, "Tell them I am who I am." In Revelations 22:13, he says in reference to himself as God, "I am Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." Notice he says, "I am the beginning." I don't have a beginning, but I am the beginning, which suggests first cause. The atheist position usually posits that the world as we know it had a beginning which makes it finite and in need of a cause. Their argument is something happened, perhaps the Big Bang Theory. However, even the Big Bang also begs for a first cause because it too is an effect. Since the Christian God boasts of being infinite, omnipotent, and omniscient, he becomes a strong, logical candidate to be considered to explain the existence and the beginning of all things that are finite. Next, I'd like to move on to the epistemic argument. The epistemic argument questions what knowledge is and how it can be acquired. And I would submit the argument that the existence of consciousness, intelligence, logic, reason, rationale, and personality all require the existence of the Christian God. The atheist position contends that empiricism is the only rational way in which all knowledge can be obtained. That is, through the five senses, what you can touch, what you can see, what you can taste, smell. And that which is immaterial or transcendent, because it cannot be proven through empirical means that it is not real. However, having this mindset creates a problem in that reason and logic itself are immaterial. And these are both things that the atheist position uses to argue its point. So it becomes problematic that the immaterial does not exist when reason and logic are immaterial and they are both used to argue their position. And given our understanding that effects cannot be greater than their cause, if a cause is not equal to or greater than the effect, it is therefore an inadequate cause, and that in and of itself, it cannot bring the effect into existence. Consciousness is not greater than unconsciousness. Intelligence is not greater than unintelligence. Logic is not greater than illogical. Rational is greater than irrational. Reason is greater than unreasonableness. Sense is greater than senselessness, and personality is greater than impersonal. And these are self-evident truths that are recognized and presupposed by all intelligent minds. How do I know? The fact that we view consciousness as greater than unconsciousness is evidenced by the fact that we would prefer to be humans than a rock. The view that intelligence is greater than unintelligence is evidenced by the fact that we seek to educate ourselves and better ourselves. The view that we view sense as greater than senselessness is evidenced by the fact that when one of our senses is damaged or lost, we recognize this as a terrible misfortune. So human beings are personalities that have been given consciousness and intelligence and are endowed with the gift of logic, reason, rationale, and sense. And if God is our first cause and we are the effect, and if the cause must be equal to or greater than its effect, we must therefore conclude that the first cause of man and woman was also conscious, intelligent, logical, reasonable, rational, and sensible, and a personal being, as effects can't be greater than their cause. Finally, the axiological argument, which studies or takes into consideration the value of goodness. I want to suggest that the existence of absolute morality necessitates the existence of God. Where does the atheist position get their sense of morality? What makes his or her standard of morality authoritative instead of arbitrary? For if the laws of morality are not legislated and revealed to us by a transcendent, infinite mind, then the laws of morality are reduced to nothing more than mere thoughts of finite minds or inventions of our own will. The atheist position do not believe that there is a God who knows with absolute certainty what behavior is good and beneficial and what behavior is not, and who reveals this knowledge to us transcendently through reason and logic. So I would submit to you the axiological argument is that without absolute morality, then we are left to our own vices, and we cannot have laws because what is true to this one may not be true to that. We need somebody to give us what is true, and God, because of his nature, he is good, he is true, serves as that source of that information.
Thank you, Rev. Brewster. Mr. Vacula. Mr. Vacula, please deliver your 10-minute opening.
Thank you, Pastor Brewster, for your opening statement and agreeing to have this debate in your church. The first of its kind open to the public debate in the area as far as I know. Thanks to everyone in the audience for attending and showing interest in and engaging with this important topic. And thanks to our moderator tonight. Thanks to everyone also online listening in. I hope this will be an educational opportunity which leads people to thoughtfully consider their beliefs pertaining to religion and have the willingness to challenge them. Our beliefs, especially those relating to religion, can have a great impact on our actions and lives, informing political decisions, dictating how we treat others, and determining how we live our lives. Some, because of their religious beliefs, will drastically change their lives. But what if certain religious beliefs happen to be false? What if opposition to birth control, sex education, and abortion, mainly because of religious reasons, happen to be unwarranted, and dramatic increases in population, unplanned teen pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and correlated poverty could be avoided? What if ideas suggesting that LGBT individuals are abominations not deserving the same legal opportunities that many straight individuals have, mainly because of religious beliefs, were unwarranted? What if the slaughter of animals dictated by religious teachings was unwarranted? These are just a sample of harms religious belief may bring about. Religious belief can have a significant impact on our lives. I hope that people will thoughtfully consider their religious beliefs and be concerned with the truth, rather than what happens to feel good, which traditions one was born into, or wishful thinking. We should be concerned with whether our beliefs, especially those which matter most in our lives, are true or not. Tonight, I will present a case for why I do not believe the Christian God exists. I am an atheist, first and foremost, because I do not find sufficient reason, argument, or evidence to believe any gods exist. An atheist merely lacks belief in any gods, nothing more, nothing less. In addition to not finding compelling reasons to believe any gods exist, I find compelling reasons to believe the Christian God does not exist. During tonight's debate, I will be arguing against the proposition, does the Christian God exist, by providing two distinct arguments: the evidential problem of natural suffering and the problem of divine hiddenness. Argument 1, the evidential problem of natural suffering. The problem of natural suffering is well known throughout the history of philosophy, and is one which many, including religious believers, find compelling. Even Christians, confident in their belief in God, have a very difficult time reconciling natural suffering with belief in an all-knowing and all-loving, all-powerful God. The problem is echoed quite plainly in the 1964 film, The Mask of the Red Death, starring Vincent Price, who says, "Can you look around this world and believe in the goodness of a God who rules it? Famine, pestilence, war, disease, and death, they rule this world. How can an all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing God coexist with natural calamities throughout history, having nothing to do with human action, such as deadly birth defects, late-term miscarriages, and deadly diseases, devastation of communities by famines, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, and other natural disasters, a predatory food chain in which species must kill and consume other species in order to survive? Throughout most of human history, when medicine and technology was not at the level it is at today, people died at very young ages from cholera, smallpox, yellow fever, plagues, tuberculosis, whooping cough, and malaria. Many of these problems are still widespread today in underdeveloped countries. Can we really say this is the handiwork of an all-loving, perfect God? The world would be a much better place, almost everyone realizes, if this natural suffering did not exist. All of our moral intuitions point to the conclusion that natural suffering is a horrible thing, something which we would be much better without. If we were able to stop or avoid natural calamities, we would. In fact, we attempt to. We erect flood walls, inoculate ourselves with medicines, flee dangerous areas, and use technology to anticipate natural disasters. When disasters happen, we mourn, we donate, realizing tragedy that we would be much better off without. While reasons for belief in the Christian God may seem compelling, such as the complexity of the universe or whatever happens to be the case, such reasons are challenged by the existence of so much natural suffering. Even if we were to grant, for the sake of argument, that there are reasons to believe some designer or some being exists, this is a far leap from an all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-loving God who sent his son Jesus to die on a cross for the forgiveness of mankind's sins. After all, a being other than the Christian God might have created the universe. The universe may also be accounted for by natural causes. Who knows? Mere complexity and unanswered questions should not likely lead us to the conclusion that an all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing being created the universe. How is it that we infer moral and other properties from what we perceive as complexity in the universe? It takes much more to lead us from complexity to design to an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful being. Lack of an answer does not give us warrant to suppose anything, and this process has a track record of failure. Throughout history, the unexplained becomes explained. We no longer need to use gods to explain mental illness, famine, earthquakes, or the germ theory of disease. As science explains more, God explanations are reduced to gaps. What we used to believe was the work of God is explained through natural causes. Surveying the egregious amount of natural suffering in the universe should lead us to a conclusion that an all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing being does not exist. The universe is not what we would expect, that such a being created it and remained active in human affairs. If such natural calamities were not the handiwork of the Christian God, however they came about, such God could easily put a stop to it. But instead, from the view of many Christians who continue to believe God exists, despite such calamities, does nothing. I pose an evidential challenge to belief in God, namely that the evidence of the egregious amount of natural suffering in the world provides us good reason to reject the claim that an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful being exists. Argument 2, the problem of divine hiddenness. The fact that the Christian God wants people, according to Christian belief, to come into communion with and worship him, at least partially to avoid the punishment of eternal torment in hell and experience whatever benefits knowledge of God's existence may bring, he does not make his existence obvious to all, and this poses a serious challenge to Christian belief. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "A God who is all-knowing and all-powerful, and who does not even make sure his creatures understand his intentions, could that be a God of goodness?" If God exists and wants people to believe he exists, God's existence would be obvious, to a point where non-belief would be completely unreasonable as us here today denying the existence of the sun, the moon, and the clouds. Surely an all-knowing and all-powerful God would know how to make his existence known and have the ability to reveal himself so that all would be believed. But we do not have such knowledge of God. God has not revealed himself to everyone so that they would believe. Since severe punishment, eternal torment in hell, comes with non-belief, and God is all-loving, God would want to reveal himself to everyone so that they would believe and avoid hell. But this doesn't happen. Under Pastor Brewster's idea of God, I was created in such a way that I would, at this point in my life, not believe God existed. God, on Pastor Brewster's view, endowed me with certain cognitive faculties, and since God is believed to be omniscient, he knew what my future would be. Despite knowing my future that I would not believe, I am condemned to an eternity of torment in hell, all of which would be avoided if God were to make his existence obvious and reveal himself to humanity so that no reasonable challenge can be made to his existence. In addition to me going to hell, all other non-believers, believers in other gods, also are consigned to eternal torment, which could be avoided if God had taken the time to reveal himself. If the Christian God exists and is going to punish people for eternity for simply not believing he exists, he is quite the unloving being sitting around while I and many others persist in non-belief, unsatisfied with reasons presented by believers in God. God too must be content with people of other religious belief systems happening to be born in the wrong time and culture, believing in other gods they would if they were born in the United States, to a devout Christian family who indoctrinates children. Muslims and Hindus today, in addition to people throughout history with different religious belief systems, have died and will die lacking belief in the Christian God. Through no fault of their own, they will, under Pastor Brewster's belief, be tormented for eternity simply because they didn't believe in the right God and were not exposed to the reason for belief, which could have been provided by God had he existed. This situation gives me great reason to doubt the existence of the Christian God. If the Christian God existed, we would expect him to reveal himself to everyone, so they may, as the Christian God desires, under Pastor Brewster's view, become aware of his existence and avoid eternal punishment in hell. Since the Christian God does not do this, and many throughout the world do not believe the Christian God exists, it is reasonable, especially when considering the grievous punishment such a God would want humans he loves to avoid, to believe the Christian God does not exist. To recap, natural calamities throughout Earth involving natural disasters, deadly birth defects, deadly diseases, and a predatory food chain provides evidence against an all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing God, who would have, if he existed, created the Earth in a different way to put a stop to such calamities, or intervene so that it didn't happen. The hiddenness of the Christian God is incompatible with the nature of such a God. If an all-loving being existed, which wants all humans to believe in his existence, and punishes them with eternal torment if they do not believe, such a being would reveal himself so that people would come to know him and avoid eternal torment. If we are to believe the Christian God exists, we must believe that a being who wants everyone to know he exists, to reap benefits and avoid hell, just sits by, failing to reveal himself to everyone, while millions are on the road to torment through no fault of their own. If we are to believe the Christian God exists, we must believe the best creation of an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful being contains earthquakes, tsunamis, devastating diseases, annihilating humans. Not only did this being devise such a plan, but also does nothing to cease these calamities. I cannot honestly believe in such a God and hope that he will do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vacula.